Greetings, fellow masters! It is I, the bell tolls. You may be thinking that it's time for another servant video, but alas, those are going on pause until the relevant Shinjuku nodes are covered. Believe me, we'll have plenty of time to catch up on servants. There's quite a while until the next singularity. That said, today I'll cover the newest material introduced to Fate Go, being Mystic Spinal Fluid. Thank goodness they shortened the name in translation. This is one of the least intensive bronze mats I've seen so far. Checking the chart, only a handful of servants actually require these. While some do require them in bulk, the total amount you need is actually a modest 1,852. Considering how long these have been in JP, I was expecting far more, but hey, that's good for us. As is tradition, before talking about the node, let's cover the events this year that will give you some spinal fluid. That sounds a bit gross actually, but no matter. Here's the timestamp if you want to skip this section. The first event is Guda Guda Maiji Ishin, with 30 in the shop. No farming nodes. Next up is Deep Sea Cyber Paradise Seraph, and yes, that is the full name, where you can get 10 from mission rewards. Once again, no nodes. Hunting Quest 3 has a node where you can farm scarabs and fluids in tandem, so if that sounds up your alley, start saving those apples. Way after that, Dead Heat Summer Race has 30 in the event shop, and teams Altria and Nero, Fran, and Reiko have nodes for them during round 1. It looks like the node is A-Plane. Def Jail Summer Escape is similar, except it's only a farming node this time, and only for teams Altria and Nero and Fran. No fluid in the shop here. During NeroFest 2019, you can farm fluid during the finals at the 30 AP node, but I might recommend against that. You'll probably want to focus your efforts on getting lottery boxes. So, if we tally things up, that's 70 guaranteed fluid from events. At this point, you may be thinking there really weren't that many events, and you'd be correct. However, that gets all made up by the last event of the year. Merry Christmas in Another World is a lottery, and it has spinal fluid. So if you are at all worried about spinal fluid, you can stop now. You'll get 3 fluids per box, and if you're an ascendant farming god, you can just get 600 boxes and be done with fluids forever. For 99.9% of you though, that's going to be quite unlikely, so let's get into the next part of this video. To consistently farm spinal fluid, you only need to pay a visit to Shinjuku Station. It's the best node even on JP, and in fact, Shinjuku as a whole is the only reliable place to get these. Shinjuku Station has an impressive 65% drop rate, so prepare for the shower of spinal fluid. Ew. With that mental image, let's look at the wave composition. Wave 1 is pretty tame, consisting of a 24.3k health hornet and 2 13.9k ones, just what you'd expect out of a first wave. Wave 2 is also simple, 2 18k health hornets and a single 30.9k health one. Honestly, this is one of the weaker second waves we've seen. The final wave is where the enemies actually get tanky. This time we have 2 Hornets of 92.8k health, led by a 115.9k one. With a name like Hornet, you might think these are insects, but no, they're actually gangsters. And they have guns. I don't know why, but in the Fate universe where older weaponry and magic rules, the fact that these guys just shoot you with submachine guns is hilarious. This node is actually pretty easy, and we can borrow some servants and strategies we've used for past nodes. To start, let's bring out the F2P comp. First and foremost, since this node isn't particularly difficult, as long as you have a halfway decent AoE Lancer, you should be good on wave 3. That said, our first servant is Arash, with a 50% charge CE. Obviously more is better, but this is assuming 50% is the best you can get. Arash's purpose here is to quickly wipe out the first wave and then bring Waver onto the field. Servant 2 is going to be Hector, again with a 50% charge CE. You'll want something that adds to his damage, like Holy Knight Dinner or Golden Sumo. Hector here will be for a quick AoE on wave 2 along with his NP damage buff. You can get by with a level 1 buff, but I recommend at least level 4. His NP level doesn't really matter, as he'll wipe most of the wave even at NP 1. The remainder can easily be face carded. Our final servant is Jolter Lily with Halloween Princess. This is recommended for the NP damage buff, but like usual, other 50% charge damage CEs also work. She's here for her free MP5, her buster buff, and her 20% battery at any level. As far as skill levels go, only her buster buff is important here, so level that one up if you can. Our support is Waver, because of course it is. We want his damage buffs and his NP charge. Enough said. For the Mystic code, the preferred choice is Anniversary Blonde. You'll be using it for the buster buff, as usual. If that doesn't work, you can also go with Plug Suit for the attack buff or the standard Chaldea uniform. You can always experiment with not using a Mystic Code attack buff and see if your Jolter Lily can get by, and if that's the case, you can opt for Mages Association to help you charge NP faster. With that, let's move on to the strategy. As I said, this node isn't very difficult, so the strategy is equally easy. For the first wave, your goal is to get Arash enough charge so that his battery can top him off and allow him to NP as soon as possible. You also want Jolter Lily to get to 60% so Waver's buffs, combined with her own battery, get her to 100%. You can accomplish this with arts cards, and the enemies on this node will help. Their attacks have quite a few hits, and they're great at charging up your servants. It shouldn't take too many turns to get the gauge you need. Once you're ready, just use Stella and move on to wave 2. This wave is even easier. Use your Waver buffs and target Hector of Waver's first skill to get him to 100%. Then you just need to NP and follow it up with some face cards to take down any health that might remain. In the final wave, use Hector's first skill for the NP damage buff, then Jolter Lily's third skill for the Buster buff. Finally, buff her with Anniversary Blonde or whichever damage buff Mystic Code skill you have. Fire off for NP and this wave should be covered. This comp usually takes me around 4 turns, but it might be more if you need additional turns to charge NP at the start, or if your Jolter Lily doesn't fully clear the third wave. That's all there is to the F2P comp. Like I said, this node is pretty simple. Let's check out the mid-core comp now. Just like the F2P comp, our first servant is Arash. His purpose here hasn't changed, but now we've given him a regular K-scope so that he can immediately NP the first wave. Easy stuff. If you don't have a K-scope, a MLB imaginary element works just as well. Our second servant is Liz, with a 50% charge CE. She has basically the same purpose as Hector, except her first skill's attack buff is doubly effective on Jolter. As long as you've done her strengthening quest, her attack buff will activate twice on Jolter Lily. Combine that with her AoE Buster for a clean wave 2, and you've got a great choice for this node. And also like Hector, her NP level doesn't really matter. Wave 2 is just that weak. Once more, we have Jolter Lily, with the same rationale as the F2P comp. No change here. The supportive choice is Waver again, for obvious reasons. Lastly, the Mystic Code will be Mage's Association. Having this will ensure you don't need to use face cards to get Jolter Lily to 100%, making for a much quicker wave 1. I probably don't even need to explain the strategy here, but I will anyway. For the first wave, just use Arash's battery and NP. Done. For wave 2, use your Waver buffs and target Liz with his first skill, then use her NP to clear the wave. Again, done. On the final wave, use Liz's first skill, Sadistic Charisma, then use Jolter's battery and Buster buff. Follow it up with a battery from Mage's Association, then NP. With 10,000 attack and a level 6 Buster buff, Jolter Lily should almost clear this wave. You may need to use face cards after the NP to finish it off, but should still only take 3 to 4 turns. And that's about it for the mid-core comp. I'm almost disappointed at how little I need to discuss these comps. Oh well, I guess it's better to have an easy node than a crazy hard one. So let's move on to our final comp, the whale comp. Finally, some changes. Well, okay, not many, but it's something different regardless. We start off with Arash yet again. We know why he's here. If you really wanted to, you could use Plug Suit and replace him with another AoE Lancer and an MLB K-scope, but personally, I'm not a fan of using Plug Suit. You can imagine how hard farming hearts is for me. But back on topic, Arash has an MLB imaginary element now, but this could easily be a regular or MLB K-scope. Next up is Liz again, also with a K-scope. Just like with Jolter Lily, her Sadistic Charisma buffs females twice, making her Surgize all the better with our next servant. For the third wave, we have Artoria Lancer Alter with an MLB K-scope, although it doesn't have to be MLB. But as a whale, I'm assuming you have one. You'll want her skill levels to be pretty high up so that she can buff herself as much as possible. Also, if she has a low MP level, it'll help if she's food, and her craft essence provides a decent attack bonus. Our support is Merlin, for the added attack and buster buffs. These will ensure Artoria can one-shot wave 3, even at lower NP levels. For the Mystic Code, it probably doesn't matter. If your Lancer Artoria has anything higher than NP 1, pick whatever. If not, use whatever has an attack buff. The strategy is as follows. Wave 1, use Arash's battery and NP. I feel like I'm having deja vu. For wave 2, use Merlin's first skill, then fire off Liz's NP. Finally, in wave 3, use Merlin's third skill on Artoria, then Liz's first skill, and lastly Artoria's first and third buffs. If you need to, use a Mystic Code buff on Artoria as well. Then, use her NP and this node should be over pretty quick. There might be a huge amount of overkill depending on your skill and NP levels, so if you find she's doing way more damage than the wave requires, feel free to drop some of the buffs on wave 3. You probably don't need them all, I'm just playing it safe here. With that, we've reached the end of another farming guide. It's not a difficult node, and relatively speaking, you don't even need much of this mat in the long run. That said, enjoy farming Spinal Fluid to your heart's content. Or just wait until Christmas. Whatever floats your metaphorical boat. As always, thank you for watching. I've put something of a poll in the comments on which Shinjuku mat I should cover next, so go check that out if you want some input. Otherwise, feel free to like, subscribe, or share if you so desire. Hopefully the next mat will be a bit more of a challenge. So farewell for now, fellow masters. May your farming be bountiful, and may the bell never toll for you. Until next time.